Hey there, welcome to another episode of Eve News, Sports, and Weather. I'm Mike Azariah, and let's try to get to it. Again, this time doing it in a different order because I want to get to a point at the end and I want to build to that point. So, movements. Last week, somebody made a really good comment that sometimes a large drop in an alliance's numbers or a corporation's numbers isn't a bunch of people leaving, it's a bunch of inactive accounts being removed. And so you can't always read everything into it when there are limits to how many people you can have in a corporation, in an alliance, that sort of thing. Uh, you have to occasionally do the winnowing of somebody who has not even logged on in the past 2 years. And we have players that do that and suddenly come back and wonder why they're no longer a member of what they were a member of 2 years ago when they stopped playing. That happens. Second thing, uh, the CCP also has dealt with inactives, but not as aggressively or as often. Once they went through and freed up a bunch of names when players who had started the game in 2003, 2004, and never come back again, never paid a penny into it, their names were removed, put back into the general pool, and they were given names like Calderi Citizen 197523. I wish all of the devs who did renaming did what one dev I know actually used the date and time that they did it as the numbers that were assigned. That way they'd never repeat a number and it would give an indicator of when they were removed or downgraded. Uh, inactivity in some games, you're removed from a corp, an alliance, a guild, whatever you want to call it. But in Eve, unless they remove you, you might be there forever. Once a goon, always a goon. But in connection with that, the biggest number change, and I think it was another winnowing, was Pandemic Horde dropped by 2,406 in the past week, and there were no balancing upticks, no other major movements. The same thing goes in when it comes to violence. The usual suspects: high sec Cheetah, low sec was Abazon, and null sec did not have a huge violent number, but it did not a huge battle, but it did have an event. And this is what I'm building to right now. Is in I gotta get it right. One Delta Quebec, one TAC Alpha, or one DQ is what most people refer to it as, had a memorial Keepstar bash on Saturday morning. Unfortunately, I was unable to get there. I've been prepping and we have had company over the weekend. I'm just taking a few moments from them. But they had a memorial bash in the memory of Innominate, who was a very well known player in the game, served on the CSM 6 times. He was a strong member of the Goon Swarm. He was a regular on the INN shows and well known overall. Now, well thought of depends on whether you were his friend or his enemy. I don't go there. I've dealt with tons of people from all the different alliances and games over the years when serving on the CSM, and I talk to the player, not the character that they're playing, not the alliance that they're playing. I deal with the person. And from what I understand, most people who dealt with the person were heartbroken when he died, cancer, and were very defensive if you said anything nasty or tried to ruin memorial service. Brings me to the next thing. Games have had funeral services before in various places, and sometimes they've been crashed by people who just want attention. And so they say it's a PvP game, I'm going to bring the PvP to a funeral service. Goons were ready for it, so it did not go that way this time. I'm fairly sure they had a good defensive force. If somebody decided that they wanted to do nasty stuff, they would be there waiting for it, saying, "You want to do that? I'm sure Nominate, wherever he is, would approve of us shooting you and blowing up all your ships." The in Eve, there are memorials. There is Molia, a star system that actually has a graveyard that has been set up as a memorial to all the players who have passed on. Now, we have an aging population in the game. A decade ago, I think the average age was 35, might be longer. time flies for me. And obviously, I am no spring chicken myself. So we have to expect with a really long game in terms of longevity, you are going to have players that are known that pass away, and even players that aren't famous that pass away. And you'll see notices of them in lines occasionally. And it's nice that the game is allowed a way for us to memorialize them. And I'm not saying every player or any player deserves a statue. I'm also not saying that we all should get landmarks in memoriam of where we flew or based out of. But CCP did, in the case of this one, put up a landmark in Planet 2 of 1DQ of Goon Swarm's exploded Keep Star. Does not mention and nominate by name, but they were very prompt right after the event the following day. Boom, there's a landmark, a permanent site that semi memorializes this event that they had. If you get a chance, if I can, I go to John Bellicose Day, another player that we've lost. That they played a Sinal Vigil every year, and if you've lost friends or family to the game, who played the game, not to the game. Boy, I gotta watch phrasing. But if you've lost friends or family, place a can in Molia. I will light a candle or drink a beer in their name, and that is about all I have for today. Absent friends, have yourself a good one, and if you're playing with people you do consider your friends, even if you've never met them before, tell them you appreciate them. You may not get the chance again, because sometimes death sneaks up behind you like some type of ninja that has a real attitude problem. So I hope I do see you in another week, but if not, keep your stick on the ice. Ciao, Bella.